Welcome to Dear Fans. WNBA free agency has been a whirlwind, but it seems to be giving us a day to calm down. Most of the big free agents have found homes, but Chennedy Carter just went from rising WNBA star to league outcast overnight, and it's all because of one reckless move. After shoving Caitlin Clark in a heated game, Carter thought she could just walk away like nothing happened, but guess what? The WNBA isn't having it now. No. Team wants to touch her, not the Chicago Sky, not the Indiana Fever, not anyone. But here's where it gets really crazy. Carter isn't just being ignored, she's being erased from the league completely. What exactly happened? Why is every team running from her? And is her career officially over? Let's break it all down. You might remember Chennedy Carter from such shenanigans as flagrantly fing Caitlin Clark at the beginning of the season. This was not called a flagrant foul at the time, but it was obviously not a basketball play. Apparently, it had something to do with one of the plays beforehand, but the words that came out of her mouth right before what happened kind of made this a little uncalled for. A little is understated, but it all started with a shove, just one reckless heat of the moment decision that sent Chennedy Carter's entire career spiraling out of control. She was once a promising star, a dynamic scorer who could shake defenders and light up the scoreboard, but now she's being blacklisted, tossed aside like yesterday's news, and the entire WNBA is treating her like a ticking time bomb. Do you have any regrets on how it happened and everything that's happened since then? I don't have any regrets with anything. I'm going to compete and play 100% hard no matter who it is, like I said, or who are playing. No, I don't have any regrets. The Chicago Sky didn't just cut ties with her, they completely erased her from their future plans. No core designation, no long-term contract, nothing. They didn't even try to trade her, which is unheard of for a player with her level of talent. They simply let her walk away, knowing full well that no other team was going to take a risk on her. And let's be clear, this wasn't just about the push. The shove on Caitlin Clark was just the final straw, the tipping point that made teams go enough is enough. Because when you take a closer look at C's career, it's not just one mistake, it's a pattern of self-destruction. The Atlanta Dream did suspend her in the middle of the sophomore season, basically saying she was a detriment to the team and the team culture. So then the Atlanta Dream decided to trade her to the Sparks, the Los Angeles Sparks. She ended up playing a lot less minutes there, and the reasoning that the Sparks were saying that she was playing less minutes was because of poor conduct, and that was the 2022 season. Then in the 2023 season, these Sparks just decided to release her in the offseason. However, none of the teams were willing to pick her up after that, so she ends up going over to Turkey, playing in Turkey, of which she balled out. So then the W team started looking at her again and being like, maybe we should give this person another chance. So she was signed to the Chicago Sky with Teresa Weatherspoon with Angel Ree. Let's break it all down. The Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever were in a heated matchup. Caitlin Clark, as usual, was putting on a clinic, dropping buckets and running the floor like she owned it. Meanwhile, Carter was getting visibly frustrated. Every missed opportunity, every defensive lapse, every moment where Clark took over the game, it was getting to her. And then, out of nowhere, Carter snapped with the ball nowhere near her. She shoved Clark with force, sending her stumbling forward. The entire arena froze. Fans gasped. The players stopped mid-play. Even the refs stood still for a second, almost in disbelief at what they had just witnessed. It wasn't just a hard foul, it wasn't an accidental bump, it was intentional, unnecessary, and ugly. Caitlin Clark, to her credit, didn't retaliate. She simply turned and looked at Carter with a mix of confusion and disbelief, like she couldn't believe someone had just done that on a professional stage. And the silence in the arena, it spoke volumes. The refs quickly stepped in, calling it a flagrant foul, but honestly, by that point, it wasn't just about what the refs saw, it was about what the fans, the coaches, the scouts, and the entire basketball world saw. Carter had just committed a career-altering mistake in front of thousands of people and millions more watching on TV, orally ruled an away from the ball foul. But it was obviously a flagrant foul. It really upset a lot of people, which really escalated the issue, and it was really just poor sportsmanship on Kennedy's part, to be completely honest, and she really didn't deal with the backlash very well either, really firing on all cylinders on social media. And if you know anything about the WNBA this season, once you start talking like people are going to clap back, and if Carter had immediately owned up to it, things might have been different. Maybe she could have salvaged her reputation, issued an apology, and moved forward. But instead, she did the worst thing possible. She refused to acknowledge it at all. When reporters asked her about the incident, her response was cold. Dismissive and borderline arrogant. No K. Clark questions. That was all she said. No remorse, no explanation, no attempt to smooth things over. And that's when the real damage started happening. The WNBA didn't take long to act. The shove was officially ruled a flagrant foul. And while she wasn't suspended, the league made it clear that this was unacceptable behavior. But here's where things got not even worse. Behind the scenes, teams were watching closely, and what they saw, they didn't like it one bit. Because here's the thing, Caitlin Clark isn't just any player. She's the biggest name in women's basketball right now. She's packing arenas, selling jerseys, and bringing more eyeballs to the WNBA than ever before. So, when Carter shoved Clark, she didn't just commit a foul, she shoved the league's biggest investment. That's bad business, that's career suicide, and that's exactly why no team wants her now. If you thought the shove was the only reason Carter is getting iced out of the WNBA, think again. The Chicago Sky made a decision that was louder than any public statement. They let Carter walk away for nothing. They didn't try to trade her, they didn't try to negotiate a smaller contract, they just let her go. And in the WNBA, that doesn't happen. Teams don't just give up on talented players without trying to get something in return. Even if a player is problematic, there's usually some value in a trade. But with Carter, they didn't even bother. That tells you everything you need to know. The Chicago Sky weren't just moving on, they were wiping their hands clean. And when other teams saw that, they got the message loud and clear. If Chicago doesn't want her, why should we? Here's where things get really interesting. It's one thing for an organization to give up on you, it's another when your own teammates start distancing themselves. Angel Reese, who was supposed to be one of Carter's closest allies on the team, straight up unfollowed her on social media. And in today's world, that's basically a public breakup. Rumors started swirling that some players in the Sky locker room were already pushing for Carter to be gone before the season even started. Think about that, she was so toxic, her own teammates wanted her out before she even got a chance to prove herself. And if there's one thing that NBA and WNBA teams hate, locker room drama, because talent can only take you so far. If nobody wants to play with you, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not getting signed. And Carter, she just got the ultimate reality check. Let's talk about why teams aren't even considering signing Carter. Caitlin Clark is bringing historic numbers to the WNBA. The Indiana Fever are projected to have over 600,000 fans in attendance this season, which smashes previous records. WNBA jersey sales have increased 500% compared to last year. Clark's own jersey sales have skyrocketed by 1,000% faster than any player in league history. The league is finally getting mainstream attention. Sponsors are coming in, networks are airing more games. The WNBA is making big moves. And you know what? Teams don't want someone like Carter messing that up. She pushed the league's biggest star at a time when the WNBA is growing faster than ever. Teams aren't just looking for skilled players. They're looking for marketable, drama-free professionals, and Carter, she's the exact opposite of that right now. That's why the Chicago Sky dumped her. That's why no team is picking up the phone. That's why she's becoming untouchable. Because at the end of the day, she didn't just shove Caitlin Clark, she shoved away her own career. And now she's left standing on the outside looking and wondering if she'll ever get another shot. But will she? Well, if history tells us anything, the answer isn't looking good. And trust me, you're going to want to hear what happens next, because what Carter does after this might just be the final nail in her career's coffin. At this point, Carter's career is dangling by a thread. The WNBA is moving forward. Without her, her teammates have turned their backs on her, and now no team will even pick up the phone when her agent calls. The question isn't just will Carter ever play in the WNBA again, it's does she even realize how deep she's buried herself? Because instead of owning up to her mistakes, instead of showing any signs of growth, Carter has doubled down on her attitude, and it's making her situation even worse. The Chicago Sky didn't just release her, they sent a loud message to the entire league. This player is more trouble than she's worth. And now Carter's reality is sinking, and let's be real, in the WNBA, talent usually gets second chances. Teams take risks on players with troubled P all the time if they think the upside is worth it. But Carter, she's different, because when Chicago cut ties with her, it wasn't about just one bad decision. It was about a pattern of toxicity, a history of problems that coaches, teammates, and executives don't want to deal with. And now, even teams that are struggling don't want to think about it. There are multiple WNBA teams desperate for scoring talent. Carter is one of the best defensive guards available, and yet not a single one has made her an offer. The Indiana Fever, not happening, not after what she did to Caitlin Clark. The Los Angeles Sparks, they already gave her a chance and dropped her because of attitude issues. The Phoenix Mercury, They've been taking risks on players, but even they're staying far away from Carter. And the biggest red flag, the Golden State Valkyries, the brand new WNBA expansion team, aren't even considering her a brand new team with roster spots to fill. And they're not even thinking about signing her. That tells you everything. So, how do we get here? Let's take a step back and look at Carter's pattern of self-destruction. It didn't start with a Caitlin Clark shove. That was just the final straw. It started way back in Atlanta, when Carter was with the Dream. She was drafted as a top pick, expected to be one of the faces of the franchise, but instead of stepping up as a leader, she became a locker room cancer. She clashed with teammates. She refused to engage in team culture. She even got into a heated altercation with Courtney Williams, one of the most liked players in the league. And what happened? The Dream suspended her midseason, calling her a detriment to the team. Then they traded her away. That should have been a wake-up call. Right, wrong, she landed with the Los Angeles Sparks, and guess what? The same drama followed. She played limited minutes, and when reporters dug into why, the answer was simple: poor conduct. She couldn't keep herself out of trouble. She refused to change, refused to grow, and by the end of the season, the Sparks had seen enough. They let her go, and at that point, she was one step away from being out of the league entirely. So what did she do? She went to play overseas in Turkey, trying to rebuild her career, and to her credit, she played well, but the WNBA, they didn't forget. So when the Chicago Sky finally gave her one more shot, it was supposed to be her chance at redemption. Instead, she torched that opportunity in record time. You want to know how bad Carter's reputation is right now? The Chicago Sky needed scoring. They needed talent. They could have easily brought her back, but instead they cut her loose without hesitation. No qualifying offer, no long-term contract. They didn't even try to trade her. That's insane in professional sports. When teams let high-scoring players walk away for nothing, it's because they're seen as a bigger liability than an asset. And when Carter got dumped, that was the final nail in her coffin. Now other teams know she's toxic. She's not worth the trouble. She doesn't take responsibility for her actions. And in a league that's finally growing, that's a deal breaker. Let's talk about why Carter's shove on Caitlin Clark was the worst mistake of her career. Caitlin Clark is the biggest thing to happen to the WNBA in years. She's not just bringing fans, she's bringing money, sponsorships, and national attention. WNBA attendance is skyrocketing. Over 600,000 Fever fans are expected to show up this season, shattering records. Merch sales up 500% from last year. Clark's jersey, the #1 seller, boosting WNBA merchandise sales by 1,000%. The league is seeing growth like never before, and Clark is at the center of it all. So when Carter pushed Clark, she didn't just commit a foul, she attacked the face of the league. And if you think teams are going to risk signing someone who did that, think again, because the WNBA isn't just growing, it's finally getting mainstream respect. And players like Carter, they don't fit into that vision right now. Carter is an unrestricted free agent, but let's be honest, her chances of getting signed are slim to none. She has too much baggage, and no team is willing to risk their locker room chemistry for a player who might bring more drama than wins. Her best bet playing overseas, because in the WNBA, she's untouchable. Her talent isn't the problem, her attitude is, and unless she radically changes, unless she proves she can be a team player, Carter might have just pushed her career off a cliff for good. Because while Caitlin Clark is out there changing the game, selling tickets, and becoming the future of the WNBA, Chennedy Carter, she's just watching from the sidelines, wondering where it all went wrong. And at this rate, she might never get another chance to fix it. So what do you think? Is Chennedy Carter officially done in the WNBA? Or do you think she'll somehow find a way back? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button and subscribe for more insane sports stories just like this one. This is one of the wildest WNBA scandals we've ever seen, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.